Okay, so this is the first one in the series called Vegetation. This one, as you can see, is matted differently from the others in the series. We chose to leave the print outside of the mat so we could emphasize the brush strokes that are actually underneath the tight mats. So the title of the show is The Painted Photograph, and a lot of people said, well, why did you call it that? Well, we called it that because I painted the emulsion on the paper, and then I also, for half of the items being exhibited, I watercolored over the top of those. So originally during the exhibit opening, this was not for sale, but we have since decided to sell it because we had so much positive feedback. The ones that are in this particular series of Vegetation have a different pricing because there was a lot more effort to make them. So there's $300 matted and framed and $250 for just the print with the mat board. This particular one also was shot during some of my traipsing around to public markets. Every time I travel, I like to go to public markets, no matter which city I'm in, no matter where I am in the world. And I love seeing how different vendors place vegetables and herbs and things like that, and different, just interesting displays. This next one is called Kohlrabi. It's actually a series of green kohlrabis with, and I'm going to get closer in, there is a purple kohlrabi that you can see right here, right on top. Very, very dark, very hard to see, but you can see a little bit of the leaves there. Hand colored, really subtle coloring on this one. This one is still available for sale. I had a lot of people give me really positive feedback on this because of the texture in the leaves and because of the subtle coloring. And it was one of the ones that really, I like how it came out myself. I could see this on my wall in my kitchen. This next one is called Crested Euphorbia lectio. It's a kind of cactus. It's the second in a 3-part series of cactus that I did for this exhibit. It is sold already. It's actually an amazing cactus that's got numerous different colors, green, yellow, pink, purple, turquoise, and I tried to represent a little bit of that in this particular hand coloring. It's really got a dark background, which also gives a little bit of drama to it, and hopefully the glare there is not too much so you can sort of appreciate that. This next one is squash blossoms and peas. And again, I've got sort of a cross between sort of the brighter paint and the more subtle paint. If I get in a little bit closer, you can see the yellows and oranges that are in the squash blossoms and the different kinds of green in the peas. A lot of positive feedback on this one because of the more sort of geometric, I should say, nature of it with the boxes that the vegetables are housed in. And this one is still available for sale. This next one is called Succulents. This is actually taken from Lotus Land, which is a big park in Santa Barbara, California. They've got various displays of flora and fauna throughout the park, and they oftentimes will use these enormous succulents or aloes to line walkways. So this is from a very bright sunny day with a lot of contrast on the leaves, sort of subtle green color that I added in here. A little bit maybe difficult to detect on this, and you can see there's a little bit more glare on this one, but this is still available for sale. This one is called Squash Blossoms. This one is hand colored as well, really a little bit more vibrant than some of the other ones. This was taken in a public market in Vietnam, still available for sale. It's one of the few that from a dimension perspective is a little bit odd, a little closer to a square shape than the others, which are either 10 by 8 or 8 by 10. This next one is called Pumpkins. It almost looks like a nighttime sort of shot. It's so dark in the background, and it looked a little bit when I created the print like it was overexposed, but when I applied a little bit of very sort of faint color to it, it really popped it out, and there's a little bit, you can see in here, some green, some yellow, and some oranges in there. This one is loved by a couple of my friends, as yet still unsold. And this one is corn husks. So again, might be getting a little bit hard to see some of the details in here, so I'm going to try to get a little bit closer. But this was from rainbow corn, and so the husks themselves were all different colors. There was a little bit of yellow, a little bit of blue, a little bit of purple. So this one has, again, a really faint or really light layer of color on it, just to bring it out of the shadows of a pure black and white. This is still available for sale as well. This next one is another of the cactus items in that series. This is called White Ghost Euphorbia lactea. Both of these cactus, the first one that I just showed you and this one, were taken when I was on a trip in Austin, Texas. These were potted along a stretch of South Congress, and the colors of the cactus itself were really inspirational for me, and making them black and white, they were still stunning images, but I really liked the little application of sort of bluish green and green in there. This one additionally has some staining in the background. That's that sort of yellowish or cream colored background. That's because I used a different developer that I did not clear using the EDTA. The research sort of shows that the lack of clearing will make this a little bit less archival than the other ones, but because it's selenium toned, it should be okay. This one has sold. This next one is called Barrel Cactus. This is the third in the cacti series. Very, very subtle green coloring in here. This was a favorite from the opening. It did sell. It's got these amazing sort of like pine, not pine, but like needles, really fine needles on the outside of it that really rendered nicely in the print. This next one is called Wet Grass. This was taken actually in my yard. You can see the water droplets on the blades of grass in this one. It's got a variety of different green tones hand painted on. And this is the only one that's sort of matted tight, but you can actually see still some of the brush strokes. So we chose to leave those, again, to emphasize that painted nature. One of the reasons also why this whole series is matted tightly is that we decided after we were sort of peer reviewing everything to prepare for the show that the brush strokes were not all created equal. Some were a little distracting as opposed to looking sort of artful, and rather than showing all of that, we wanted to make the presentation of the exhibit look a little bit more classic, more clean. So these are all framed, matted, and archivally framed using standard matte black Nielsen frames and a very cool white color 4-ply mat board. This next one is called Artichokes. It's the only artichoke image that I chose to display for this exhibit, although I did take a variety of different artichoke images and I considered putting a lot of them into the show. This one is also sold. Lots of people had great comments, and I had also a lot of positive feedback, things like saying this looks like a painting, or this looks like a color photograph, not like a black and white photograph. It's one of the ones as well where I had popped the color a little bit more, didn't really love it, and ended up taking some of the layered color off to make it a bit more subtle. I really like how it came out. I do have a bunch of reject prints of the artichokes that are uncolored as well. And then the final image in the show, this one is called Cabbage Beets. And this is the brightest colors of any of the images. You can see different green tones in the section of the cabbages, and then the beets are really popped out. Again, a lot of favorable feedback on the small brush strokes and the level of detail that I was able to bring out by doing some of the hand coloring compared to some of the dark areas in the background. This one has also sold. So that actually brings me to the conclusion of the show. Here I'm just sort of going to focus on the flower display, which is currently here in the gallery. So the show comes down officially on Monday, February 18th. We are going to publish a book of photographs that will be available sometime in March. That'll be done using the Blurb software. The book will be available for sale as a commemorative part of the exhibit. The rest of the images that didn't sell will continue to be available through probably, I'm going to try to sell them through Instagram or through Etsy. Information will be available also on the blog. I'm going to just try to show, let me see if there's some information here about the exhibit. Let's see. So towards the bottom here, you can see the www.rochesterarts.org web address. And that is where you can get more information about the Flower City Art Center. It's where you can also find a link to the blog page for the artists in residence in the photography department. And on that blog page, you'll find information about my specific blog articles as I was making the work here, the process that I went through, the trial and error, and all of the different decisions that I made in order to get to this final grouping of 25 images. You'll also see links to YouTube videos from my artist talk, as well as this particular video, that's where I'm planning to put it. So thanks very much for sticking with me and getting this gallery tour. I hope you've enjoyed seeing the work, and if you've got any comments or questions for me, please feel free to post them here on YouTube. I'm really excited to be able to share this work with everybody, and really grateful for the opportunity to have my residency. And thanks for joining me today.